shop for wrestling talk. We're talking champs v contenders, rookies v vets, and shoots v works. I am your host, the Triple Crown Champ. Let's get into it. So, welcome back. I apologize for the late uploads, but I'm here now. I'm making this video now for the second time, I might add, but here we are. So, WrestleMania Night 1. Let's get into it. So let's start the night with the heavyweight clash. Let's start with Jay and Gunther. Now, as I said, there's no way Jay wouldn't win. And the reason Jay wouldn't lose this match was because of the type of push we watched him go through. The type of push we watched him go through was reminiscent of Daniel Bryan and the WrestleMania movement. Which for me is one of the greatest stories I've ever personally watched told in wrestling. Maybe I was just immersed in it so much. Maybe I was just so much of a Daniel Bryan fan and I just loved his work so much. His ability to wrestle, his height and stature, and still able to compete in the heavyweight picture. All of this was just amazing things to me, and I warmed to Daniel Bryan a lot, and I've warmed to Bryan Danielson as well after that, and I believe because that was for the same reason. So because of that, I mean, I couldn't see Jay not winning that match. I couldn't see him not becoming champion. I personally think he will be an absolutely amazing champion. I think he will be better than most. I think a lot of people believe that he will be one of those kind of lighter champions, kind of during an era where we didn't have great champions, and I don't think this is going to be correct. I really don't. As for the match itself, the match was perfectly fine. I don't want to be disrespectful to the performers, but knowing what was going to happen and knowing how it was going to play out, it was a story that we knew every part of. We knew how it was going to end. We just wanted to see how they did it, and they did it well. I can't complain. There's a lot of people complaining about WrestleMania and how some of the matches ended up, but I feel like giving it some grace and some credit. It was pretty good. It was an okay match, and that's all I can say about that. Moving on. So I want to move on to the next match that comes to mind, which was Tiffany Stratton v Charlotte. Now, Tiffany Stratton v Charlotte was a very well-built match because of the controversies that came out in the promotion of this match, in the build-up to this match. I knew this match was going to go one way also. I just wanted to see how they would get to the finish. And what interested me most of all was Tiffany Stratton's ability to keep up with Charlotte Flair, which I will say she was able to do very well. I enjoyed that. I've always said that I don't have the greatest confidence in Tiffany Stratton's wrestling ability, but what I do have confidence is her ability to grow. She's very good at that. She is very young, and my ideology is if you apply the young girl that became Team USA gymnast and you applied how much work it took to become that performer, and you imagine that she's going to apply that amount of work to being a WWE competitor, she will be not just fine, she will be a Hall of Famer. She will be something we remember for the ages, because as far as promotion and the ability to draw the fans in, her ability to sell, her ability to get over with the fans, that quickly. How long has Tiffany Stratton been around? I remember when she showed up in NXT, and now she is the main roster WWE champion. You have to think of the time span that happened. So if that is the case, Tiffany Stratton will be fine. I tell you who won't be fine is Charlotte. Charlotte will not be fine because that knee isn't going to hold up. I watched the match, and a part of the reason why Tiffany Stratton was able to keep up with Charlotte so well was because Charlotte's knee is not right. I can see from the way she moves that that knee is not right. It doesn't. There's not a lot of flexibility to it. Um, Bearing in mind she's been back from injury for quite some time. She has had what, 3 matches since she won, if that, since she won the Royal Rumble. So there's no reason for it aside from the fact that that knee is essentially done. And she has been champion something like 13 or 14 times. So really and truly, I mean, I think a part of the controversy between Charlotte and Tiffany was part of the fact that Charlotte, out of kayfabe, knows that she's done. She hasn't got that much longer left in the game, because her body won't allow it, which I believe is difficult for her. If you look at the influx of stars, Tiffany was 100% right, because there is so much influx of stars at the moment that they don't need to put a rocket on the back of Charlotte anymore. She won't necessarily be the queen as she proclaims anymore when you have Stephanie Vaquer, when you have Julia, when you have Bianca Belair, Io, Rhea, when you have Roxanne Perez. Like, there are so many. Alexa Bliss has come back and will be working with the Wyatt Six. There is so many strong female performers on that roster. I actually believe at some point Kilani Jordan will become a big picture, because I'm not a big fan of Kilani Jordan, but I am not blind. I can see why people like Kilani Jordan, and I don't mean that in the respect of she is an attractive girl, which she is. She is a great performer. You just have to look at Tiffany Stratton to see why Kehlani Jordan will be successful. They're the same yoke. They're both princess gymnasts, princess ex gymnasts that will get over with young girls. So I would think Kehlani Jordan will end up on the main roster and pick up a intercontinental. So in that respects, Charlotte is not necessarily needed anymore. And I think Charlotte knows that, but she doesn't want to admit that. And there's a lot more posturing put into her character. And the fans can tell, which is why a lot of fans have turned against her. So that was unfortunate. Yeah, but I call that Tiffany Stratton wins that match. Mad props to her, because she took the bump and chipped her tooth. We can respect that. We can always respect someone who put so much dedication. She continued the match. She didn't hold her face and run to the back. A lot of respect for you, Tiffany Stratton. Well done. Moving on to Jacob Fatu and LA Knight. Yeah. Who's that? So this was an easy one to predict. Jacob Fatu was always going to win. LA Knight, I believe, might be going to the heavyweight picture, as I said before, much like The Rock did in the Attitude Era when he dropped the Intercontinental belt to Triple H. Yeah, I believe LA Knight is something a lot like The Rock in the way that he cuts promos, in the way that he's got the fans in the palm of his hands, his little catchphrases, just the way he speaks generally. It seems like The Rock 2.0. No offense to the man. I understand he is his own man, but it will be interesting to see. Now, the fact that he's not necessarily brutal means he can make for a very good face. I think the WWE need more people that they can put close to Cody Rhodes, the type of face that Cody Rhodes is. So I think LA Knight might be something for that, of which I don't think there's many face characters coming into the heavyweight picture at the moment. So it would be interesting to see what happens, but I think that's what's happening with LA Knight. So to do so, he would have to drop the lesser title, which would be the US, or the Intercontinental, which are essentially adjacent to each other. Um, Jacob Fatu, however, is being built to be the next big bad, is the way I've said it before. The next big bad, and by that I mean the next super villain of the WWE. There are two or three of these people that are put in this position. One is also Drew McIntyre. I feel like at some point in his meteoric rise, if they want him to be that number one big bad, he is going to have to compete against Drew McIntyre, and he's going to have to beat Drew McIntyre. But he is being billed for that because he does have the ability to put that to be that performer in people's minds. He has the presence of mind to carry that character, and he has done it before. He can be both heel and face, even though he seems to be, his character comes across as extremely violent and extremely, we live in that era where we kind of like anti-heroes. We love the Punisher. We love, you know what I mean? We love characters who are not necessarily good guys, but they're definitely not bad guys. So, Jacob Fatu is very much interested in that respect, and he entertains us. He entertains us. That is very important to wrestling fans. He entertains us. So as for his victory, it was pretty much textbook. That was always going to happen. Well done. New champion, Jacob Fatu. Congratulations. Moving on, that takes me to El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio. Well, Rey Mysterio didn't compete. I had that one for a win for Rey Mysterio. I wasn't quite sure. That was a guess I went for. However, El Grande Americano won that, especially since Rey Mysterio wasn't in the match at all. I will say it's interesting to see what they're doing with the Americano character. I don't know if it's a short-lived character or a longer stint of his character. I would say the fact that he picked up the victory at WrestleMania means that character's going to be around for a little while. We should know at this point that Chad Gable has the ability to pull off these characters, though, because I think, does anybody remember Shorty G? Yeah, I hated Shorty G at the time. I now appreciate the level of craft and ability it took to be Chad Gable, Shorty G, and Grande Americano. So because of that, and I believe when he started with, was it Jordan? They were in a tag team, something about America as well back then. They were a tag team. His name was slightly different. Was it Chad G back then? I forget what his name was, but he has had several iterations of his character, and he has always been, at the very least, entertaining. He gives us all. He's a great performer, and I enjoy watching his matches. Not just for his wrestling prowess, but his performance and bringing the characters to life and telling those stories. There has been a lot said for a long time about Chad Gable possibly being higher on the card. And I think WWE look at his size, and I don't think you have to. I think he is fine the size he is because he has that ability to wrestle. We have seen that before with Gargano. And I think if Chad Gable can't move up the card, maybe Gargano needs to leave WWE. Because if you've seen both of those guys' matches, like a match between those two would be phenomenal. Amazing. Between Chad Gable and Gargano. So as to that, I say, yeah, it was a good match. It wasn't that long. It wasn't overly interesting. It wasn't overly disinteresting. So it was warm water. So moving on to the tag team title between the New Days and the War Raiders. I didn't like the outfit they brought the War Raiders out in. the Clash of Clans. It's just like, that is so not the War Raiders. I mean, I know the WWE are taking their opportunity to sell some products and have some marketing opportunities with some different companies, but that is just not the War Raiders. Um, we always knew they were going to lose the belt, or I always said they were going to lose the belt. They have to lose the belt because New Day have had a heel change, and they have to validate that heel change. And validating that heel change means that the War Raiders have to drop the belt. Also, I think the experiment of having the War Raiders as the champion did not work. I think every time the WWE have acquired the War Raiders, they acquired them because of their aesthetic and what they are as wrestlers. And then they proceeded to thrust the War Raiders into situations that they don't belong, like a hell of a lot of promos. The War Raiders do not cut promos. They're not good at them. Eric's not good at them. Ivar's not good at them. They do what they have to, and then they come to the ring dressed like Vikings with one of the greatest aesthetics that has ever been seen in wrestling. They come to the ring and they show you what two men, 280 pound and 300 pound, can do. That is what the War Raiders do. That is what the War Raiders give. And I think in some cases, the WWE are asking too much of the War Raiders. Perhaps it's an idea to just let them go. We want to see the War Raiders, but we don't want to see the War Raiders come into the ring in Clash of Clans outfits. Also, in that aspect, I must say the entrances were not great throughout the whole WrestleMania weekend, both nights. I expected better from Jade Cargill. Her entrances, I watched her entrances in AEW, and they were some of the greatest entrances I've ever seen. Well thought out. She likes her Barbie, but she likes her comic book. She likes her. This made for great entrances. I felt like none of the entrances were that great. I think the War Raiders entrance, which has historically always been absolutely amazing, it lacked one point that always makes the War Raiders entrance better than anything else you've ever seen. The one element that makes the War Raiders entrance generally better than any other War Raiders entrance usually has Sarah Logan in it. No Sarah Logan. And I mean, it's upsetting enough for me that the WWE got rid of Sarah Logan, because Sarah Logan could actually wrestle. And I don't mean to discredit the female locker room. I just mean to say Sarah Logan could wrestle at a time where we still had diva style wrestling in the company. She's an accomplished wrestler. She can do this. But no Sarah Logan in the company, no Sarah Logan at WrestleMania, no Sarah Logan coming out with her husband of the War Raiders, of which their aesthetic is always amazing. None of that. And then the War Raiders dropped the title. I mean, to be fair, I expected the War Raiders to drop the title. That was completely understandable, and that was completely acceptable. But what is not really acceptable is kind of messing with the aesthetic and the gimmick of the War Raiders. Don't do that. Of which WWE has done several times. Because remember, they were the War Raiders, then they were the Viking Raiders, and the War Raiders. So, yeah. But New Day, new champions. Congrats. So, on to another match I briefly alluded to earlier. Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Now, Jade Cargill versus Naomi was very lukewarm, anticlimactic. The match was shorter than I thought it was going to be. The entrance of Jade Cargill was a little bit disappointing, as I said, because I'd seen some of the most amazing entrances by Jade Cargill.
Big boss vet. And he you see Jade Cargill alongside her sorority sisters in AKA stepping her way to the ring.
Now this is a Las Vegas entrance.
AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha, the oldest African American sorority in the United States.
From Vero Beach, Florida, she is the TBS champion.
And once the fake news report started to bring her in, I thought, okay, we're going to get a hell of an entrance here. And then it was just a basic entrance that she comes out on Raw, like just a longer ramp. I've long since wondered about Jade Cargill's actual ability to wrestle in the ring. As I've gone by and I've looked at her as a wrestler, it seemed apparent to me that she's not actually been in the wrestling business that long. And once I started doing some background work, I found that to be exactly right. She's not actually been in wrestling all that long in comparison to some of the other wrestlers that are there, which is why she doesn't necessarily wrestle. She just hits slams and powerful, impactful moves because she looks like that and she works the way she does. So as far as that respects, I think I understand now why she needs some time before she gets into a feud with Bianca, which is definitely coming. And I think we can all agree with that after seeing the way Bianca has been responded to in the last 2 or 3 live events. So as far as that goes, though, because of those reasons, Jade was always going to win the match. Jade was always going to pick up the victory and she was always going to look dominant doing it. The problem with that is Naomi has gone through a heel change. And historically, I think Naomi has always been overlooked on the female roster. She's been there for long enough. Some of the things she says in her vignettes and promos is exactly true and is exactly right. It might be coming from a mean character, but she's not incorrect. She has been overlooked a lot. And to say that she doesn't have the ability to wrestle is incorrect. She also evolves because if we remember, she might still hit the rear view, but the rear view isn't her finisher anymore. So, and I think things like that are very important. I felt like per the rules of wrestling, the unwritten laws of wrestling, she should have been put over, but it's clear that they are building Naomi. I mean, it's clear that they were building Jade Cargill and Naomi was simply a team player as far as out of kayfabe and making that happen by selling for her. So congratulations to both ladies. And I hope we figure out what to do with this heel that Naomi has encapsulated at the moment. I will say, though, that jacket she wore on SmackDown, is it? Yeah, don't ever wear that again. That is a horrible, horrible, horrible jacket. I don't know who gave you the idea to do that. That is just God. That is an eyesore. An eyesore, I tell you. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, 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 sir. No, Naomi. No. That moves us on to the main event of the evening, which I actually believe ended up probably becoming the match of the entire WrestleMania, and that's saying something. I think the greatest 2 matches of the entire WrestleMania was probably this match. I would put it up against the Oba Javon Evans Trick Williams match. And that's saying something for the main roster. In both respects, because I thought the weak link in a match that had CM Punk was going to be CM Punk. Because I know a lot of you are fan favorites. I know a lot of you love him. I do not love this man. I don't care for him. And I think he is one of the most overrated performers that wrestling has ever seen. Just the worst roundhouse kicks I've ever seen. Just the worst. What is that? It looks like windscreen wipers. That's not a kick. Muay Thai my ass. Now, as far as the match that goes itself, the story that was told in the match was done very well by all three performers. CM Punk included. I thought they were going to just leave the favor out. The favor that was owed to Seth Rollins, I figured they were going to leave that out, but they didn't leave that out. It came to fruition at the end of the match, as it should have. I mean, when they proposed it, I figured it's going to be something that comes to fruition at the end of the match. It did. I thought they had forgotten all about it. The double cross after double cross, oh man. Also didn't see that coming. I did see the first double cross coming. I did think he was always going to be a Roman guy, but double cross after double cross, it makes sense outside of kayfabe. Roman Reigns, as we know, is not all that well physically. He has to take, if I'm not mistaken, he has to take chemo in the form of some kind of pills every day. So the legitimacy of how long he's going to stick around in the company is to be questioned. The grey hairs you see on CM Punk's face means that when he says, I came here for a check, it's about money. It's about money. And CM Punk, I doubt, will stay 18 months more. His contract won't be for long. It'll be for a hell of a lot of money. And to this point, I don't even see him winning the WWE title. I believe that's why the WrestleMania main event was so important to him, because he's won the WWE title before. He's won all the titles before, pretty much. So he doesn't need that. What he does need is a WrestleMania main event spot, and then he's gone. I don't think CM Punk is going to be around for much longer. As far as Seth Rollins goes, I think all you have to do is think about the fact that if you've watched any behind the scenes or any documentarial shows about the WWE, you will see Triple H speaking about the future of the company. In any respects, anyone talking about the future of the company, a part of that VT is always going to be Seth Rollins holding the first ever NXT title. And I think that speaks a lot as far as how much the WWE have always believed in Seth Rollins. So if Roman Reigns is not well enough to continue doing this forever, and as I've seen reports that says that Roman Reigns plans his exit plan from WWE, and we look at the fact that someone else in that match, like CM Punk, is also probably not going to be around for all that longer, it makes sense to make Seth Rollins, a Paul Heyman guy. It just makes sense. Us not seeing that, I think, was beautiful. Storytelling, and this is why I watch the WWE more than I watch a TNA or AEW. I've spoken about this as far as AEW is concerned. I think they miss a lot with storytelling, and I think a lot of storytelling was done extremely well with this WrestleMania. I also think there's a lot of storytelling that was done extremely badly. But the problem with this WrestleMania is I think the bad overshadowed the good. So the things that went badly or didn't go as planned or as people had hoped have overshadowed some of the greatest spots over the weekend that people generally tend to overlook at this moment. And that is me just generally speaking about the whole weekend as a whole, not just night one. However, this has been me, the Triple Crown Champ, reviewing night one. So, if you like the content, please hit like, hit subscribe. Feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. Hit the notification button. It lets you know when I'm uploading next. And until then, I have been the Triple Crown Champ. I'll see you next time.